Live from the Pitch Pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, Pitch Stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Hi, welcome to a special edition of Pitch Live Season 2 Wrap. I am so thrilled that you are here with me to kind of get a recap of what happened this season. And wow, we made it through Season 2, so very exciting. I think I shared with you last year that I had started Pitch Live podcasts really as research for my book. And last year I told you I was writing it, and I was writing it, but it wasn't finished yet. But I'm happy to say it is finished now. It has a name, it has a cover, and it's coming out in February. So I am super excited to share with you very soon my first book, Lift, 10 Mentorship Touchpoints to Empower Your Team and Accelerate Your Career. And if you love Pitch Live podcasts, you are really going to love this book because a lot of the stories that are shared in the book, the real stories are right here on the Pitch Live podcast. And even as I was recording this year, all this year, 2025, was recording Season 2. The book was actually, I had finished writing the book. It's taken me an entire year with all the edits and back and forth and cover art and all the things that authors go through to finalize a book. At the same time, I kept doing this Pitch Live podcast. And what was so interesting to me and what I wanted to share with you on this recap of the season was that a lot of the things that we talked about in the interviews actually are addressed in the book. And this is after I had written the book. They just kept popping up. So I first want to share with you just some of our PitchPro advice. So every month I interview somebody from the business world, an entrepreneur, a mover and shaker, someone that's really crushed it, to share their story on how they make success happen, how they pitch, how they accomplish great things in their career. So you can really get that, seasoned leader's advice. And this was a fun season. So here's a few clips on some advice and some topics that came up during our interviews that you're going to read about in my book, Lift. What's been the most unexpected lesson or challenge since launching Remote Rebellion?
Honestly, hiring. I've been in recruitment for over 11 years. I'm like, I've got this. I know hiring. It's so different on the other side when you're hiring people for your own team. And I've made so many mistakes along the way. I've either hired the wrong people, I haven't trained them properly, I haven't been the best leader, and I'm still learning. I honestly don't think I'm the best manager. I love my team and I'm good to them, but I don't think I'm very good at working with people and coaching them through their in a role. I'm working on that. I've just recently completed an NLP coaching course, and a lot of the things that I learned in that is helping me. But I've got a long way to go.
Michelle, I am so glad you said that because in my book that's coming out soon, I have a whole chapter about that very thing because I believe that a lot of entrepreneurs don't think about that. And it's funny that you come from the recruiting industry. So of all people, definitely you would think, yeah, you got this. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And in my career of having put my company now for 20 plus years, starting it when I was 27, it's not something you think about. You think about building something and you have to hire people, but you don't think about how you've got to manage them and motivate them and all these things that you have to do. It's difficult, but if it doesn't work, your company doesn't work either. So
exactly.
Thank you for being transparent about that. It's not easy.
I feel like I'm so much better at hiring for other people than myself.
Well, because you don't have to deal with it after they've been hired.
Maybe.
To be honest and to be nurturing at the same time and give feedback. Those are like three big ones that I have learned and that I used still to this day. Feedback is key because you can go through a show and maybe it was a wonderful show. You still want feedback. Maybe there were X amount of problems in that, there was a misspelling or something didn't go technically correct, or, someone flubbed something on the air that they made a mistake. People make mistakes. So I think feedback is like one of the biggest things that I always try to give, for better or worse. And sometimes we'll watch the clip and we'll watch it together, and it's an opportunity to see what went right and what didn't, potentially, and just break it down. Let's talk. Like, there's no crime in talking about if something went wrong. You should be able to talk about that just as much as when things go right. So feedback is like one of the biggest tenets of my leadership, if you will.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's very time consuming, but I actually watch and listen every single interview that my client does. Even if they do a 60-minute radio interview, I'm listening to it. Like,
really?
Yes, I provide feedback every single time because I just think it makes people better. And I think a lot of times, I don't know if your news team
and it's how you do it, by the way, if I should say. It's how you give the feedback too. It's just as
like
important.
the good, but also, hey, this could make it better if you maybe didn't tell this story. Now, I want to go back to something you mentioned, which might be shocking to a lot of people, but you bought your own laptop, I guess, or what was considered a laptop at that time. Just out of curiosity, did you ask GNC to buy it for you first and they said no and you said, okay, I'm just going to buy it anyway? Or did you just go out on a limb and buy it?
No, you should never ask permission to do things you need to do anyway. Amy, that's entrepreneurial or in a company. I had a 401k from a previous company I worked for a couple of years. It had just enough to buy a computer. I knew I needed it to pole vault my career through the ranks there. And I didn't even think about asking. When I wanted to differentiate brands at GNC had, if you remember back then, they had like Fig Bars and Oat Bran and 99-cent vitamin C and white and red labels that were generic on the front line. This is a long time ago, probably before some of your listeners were even around. But I wanted to make GNC more of a specialty brand, and so that required differentiated packaging, better formulations. I went out and bought 200,000 blue glass bottles to do a phenomenal looking, highly differentiated brand that nobody had ever done before at GNC. And I didn't ask permission for that either. And when I came back from the glass factory tour where I had approved the shade of blue as the hot glass was coming off and just was cool enough to tell the color, my boss at the time told me that if this worked, I was going to be promoted and probably be his boss. And if it didn't, he was going to enjoy firing me. So no, I wasn't a big fan of permission.
Okay, that's a really important thing to note because I think a lot of times these days, people feel a little entitled with companies, but it looks like you found more success just not asking and just doing it, and they probably really appreciated that.
It only works if it's successful, though, Amy, and so it's a risk. Just to it didn't have to work out great, but in the end it did. But you're taking a risk if you do that.
Explain what new things that you're doing when it comes to training students. That's a new experience for them.
First and foremost, I have found with multiple kids at all different levels of riding, whether it's smaller or older or whatever, honestly, discipline you do, equitation jumper or hunter, I found the most important thing in success and in this sport and having fun and a positive experience was confidence. And that's something that I live by. I think that if you are confident, you can do anything. You can, honestly, I have watched and helped kids that have done things through confidence that, in my opinion, they probably didn't know they could do and probably wouldn't have done without it. So it's something I really try to instill, and I try to be this kind of light that pushes them and gives them this oomph of positivity that they can do it. And I found that to be really, really successful for us.
But one of the things I did do was in the summers, I did internships, just like every other college student who was pre-law or headed to law school. Worked at the Fair Employment Council and did a summer internship on Capitol Hill. My employer on Capitol Hill is the late Congressman Louis Stokes, who represented my district in Cleveland, Ohio. And he answered the call and said, okay, come into the office, tell me your story, and let me see what I can do for you. And thankfully, he was able to make it possible for me to retroactively enroll in 4 years of classes at that point, and make sure that all of my tuition payments would be taken care of. So I was able to graduate debt-free.
That's amazing. I don't know if you can recall this specifically. I mean, but that was quite a pitch. How did you, as a young college student, did you walk in there prepared, like as if you were going to give a presentation once he said, okay, you can come in? Or did you wing it? Or do you remember exactly what the mechanics were with your pitch to him?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there was no preparation. It was just truth. There was
It's
none.
just desperation, right?
Honestly, it was. It was a pitch of desperation, if there's such a thing. And really just I just bared my soul. I just, spoke very honestly, earnestly about my passion, my goals, my dreams, and the fact that the only thing that stood in the way of that was money. And I didn't want that to be the deterrent for me achieving my goals and my dreams. And I think that it appealed to him because he is also from Cleveland. He comes from a humble background, just like I did. And he recognized in me something that was bigger than even I could see in myself at that time.
I want to know, how did you end up at an internship in Fort Myers NBC affiliate? Do you have grandparents down there or something? What happened?
My friend had, her parents had a place. That's exactly it. And so we were looking like, where do we want to go? And it was around October, November. So it's starting to get colder. Where do we want to go? Let's go somewhere different. And again, if you can go away and come back, people like that. And having that range of experience, then here's your typical experience and what everyone else has done. We didn't want to follow the path that everyone else around us was following. So how could we shake it up and find somewhere different? And it was so much fun, and also gave them at WBABH in Fort Myers, Florida, gave them a chance to have different talent and to see, okay, so here's what an intern from this other area looks like. So I think it was different because we were very much ready to do anything and everything. Because here we had to do so many things. Like as when I started out in broadcasting, I wasn't just the person interviewing people or anchoring the news. I was also what was called a videographer. And now everyone's a videographer. So I had my huge camera and my microphone, and I'd go around and interview people. And then I would edit the story, and then I would present it live. So I had to be able to multitask. And I know that sounds, well, we all do that now by ourselves. But back in that time, those were several skill sets to have all in one. And so it was good to be able to bring that there. And they're like, wow, okay, these people have these different skills. What are you going to do with it?
Especially in Fort Myers, I'm sure that was helpful to them. They were probably not a huge staff, so they were probably very impressed.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was great. You know what? It's always about diversifying and also getting to know different people. What's their story, and what are the stories that are different here because of geography or culture than what is somewhere else? And so I think it helps to open your mind to saying, what else is new out there that people are doing, and that or the challenges that they have in whatever it is that they're covering.
Yeah, I can certainly tell you. The first job I had coming out of college, I had never sold anything in my life, and I was working for a company called More Business Forms, and I couldn't sell my way out of a paper bag. I was horrible. 9 months into the job, I remember my boss called me into his office and said, "Mark, I got to be honest with you. You suck at this." That's exactly what he said to me. And I looked at him, and he then said to me, he goes, "Mark," he says, "if you can't turn things around in 60 days, we're going to have to make a change." And that was a euphemism for, we're letting you go. And I refused to fail. I just wasn't good at sales, but I had to figure it out. And I completely changed my attitude towards, pitching, to use your term, to go out and work harder, but also learn, how important it was to go out and rechange, my mind as to what I was really looking to do. And I realized from listening to tapes, and I would listen to Brian Tracy, and who I actually interviewed for my book, and he's on the cover of my book. But I listened to him back at this time, which why he's so foundational in kind of the way my mind was wired. That I programmed myself to go out and get as many no's as possible. I was going out to absolutely get rejected because I couldn't stand rejection. I had to overcome rejection. I still, quiver a little bit at rejection, but now I become hungry for it, and I came up with, and I'm sure you can read all kinds of articles on these things, like I was trying to go out and get people to say no, and I wanted them to say no as fast as possible so I can get to the next no. What that allowed me to do was, in the span of the next, 24 months, I became, one of the top salespeople out of 600 in the Midwest for this company. And I'm at achievement clubs, and suddenly, everything was going differently. But it was just a simple philosophy as I'm going to get people to tell me no.
When I look at Student Press Law Center and what you do, I know you're providing a free service to these students, but in a lot of ways, it's mentorship because you're really hitting them early in their careers. Many of these students are learning for the very first time what their legal rights are. How do you cultivate a mentorship approach with your staff and with your team when they are working with these students? How do you promote that or guide that?
I think the beauty of my team is they all came to the Student Press Law Center because they love the work, they believe in the mission, and they love working with young people. And so they're all just so naturally inclined to have that mentoring approach with young people. Mike Heaston is our senior legal counsel. He's been with us for 35 years, and he is a national treasure. There are students, former students, who are now, nationally acclaimed journalists that remember talking to Mike at these seminal moments in their youth. So, that's just kind of baked into how Mike does it. And every one of our team members, when they talk to young people, it's just part of who they are. I think it comes really natural. But, we've had an internship program through the years where we bring in, journalism interns, we bring in legal interns and fellows. So we're constantly trying to bring young people into our space so that we can work with them directly. But then when we also go out to our conferences and we provide education and training, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's at a conference, wherever it might be, making sure that we're accessible to these students. I think the thing that amazes me the most, my first week on the job, Amy, I went to the National High School Journalism Conference out in San Francisco. I had not met anybody in this space yet. And I walked into a giant conference room and a young person screams out my name, Gary Green, and just kind of startled me. But they feel like they're a part of our mission. So there's just this natural coming together where students feel like they can approach us, they can come talk to us, they can call us back, they can email us. And we just want to make sure we continue encouraging that. We're not some big organization that's off in DC that, you can only talk to in very formalized channels and avenues. We are there to help students and their advisors. So I tell everybody, call us, email us, have us Zoom into your class. Come let us be a part of your curriculum and your course and your newsroom.
Our retention is phenomenal. In 20 years, we've had 3 people quit, and one of those people came back. So over the course of 20 years, as you can imagine, we have had to ask some people to leave and go be, successful elsewhere. But no, the people that are on our team, I would guess that the average retention is like 7 years. And we've been around for 20 years, and that goes a lot to efficiency and effectiveness and profitability and just good energy at the office where, we're friends. We call it the hashtag Jamily. And that, that really has been, I would say, somebody came up with a phrase, I don't know who to credit to, but it's like, they say it's not about it's not about the reward, it's about the journey. And then someone added a additional thing. It's not about the journey, it's about the company. And the company that you have along the journey, the people that you get to do it with, that's the best part.
It definitely looks like you have a good relationship with your team. What would you say that, how would they describe your leadership style or in what ways would they say that, or in what ways would you describe your leadership style?
Batshit crazy.
Very outside of the box, very not there's no hierarchy feel about our company. It's like we are all on this team together. Yes, ultimately someone has to make a decision at the end of the day on the hard stuff, but it's like with our team, we want everyone to feel like they have a voice, an opinion, they can bring ideas to the table. They're never stunted in their growth of their career. There are just always new opportunities for them to grow and learn, and just our focus on that is everything, because with happy employees there comes happy customers. So yeah, I feel like it's just that team atmosphere that really makes a difference.
In my case, I mostly wasn't seeking someone, they showed up, So, like, for instance, when I got back from meeting with President Clinton, the television station sent out a reporter to interview me about it. And it turned out that he had been a teacher of transcendental meditation for like 30 years. So, anyways, you need to learn meditation. Great. So I learned meditation. And then he said, oh, well, this comes from a system of medicine called Ayurveda. If you want to learn more about it, go to the spa in Fairfield, Iowa. So that changed the whole course of my life. And it wasn't like I was seeking this person out. It's just like, people would show up, and I also was constantly saying, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. So, I could
willing to
experience.
try. I love how you describe that. I think you're the first person that's really described it that way to me. And that makes a lot of sense, because I always say that it's not like we're looking for mentors all the time, but then people have mentors and you're like, how did they get those mentors? But I like how you say that you weren't seeking it out, but they found you.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I found you. I mean, I didn't ask you to mentor me through the process, but I think it's just being bold enough to tell somebody, like someone told you need to know meditation. It changed the whole course of where you were at that point in your career, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. And just, being open, so it was like everything that he said, oh, you should do this. Okay, I'll do that. Oh, you should go to, okay, I'll do that. Yeah.
I think, I worked for Harvey Weinstein for a few years, and Harvey was fascinating because I learned what I didn't want to be in business from Harvey. And they were invaluable lessons. I learned how I would never treat people, what I wouldn't do, what wasn't appropriate, and I saw it firsthand. And so I didn't last long there. I wasn't cut out for that place, but I worked on amazing movies and learned really hard lessons.
I just wanted to know, has there been any pivotal mentors in your career that really stand out to you? That somebody that opened a door or gave you an opportunity, or gave you, even if it was like just a one-off piece of advice that like made all the difference?
Well, I'm looking at one right now.
Oh.
If anybody would be a mentor for me, I mean, yes, I have had my design mentors along the way. And, like I said, a lot of the females that I have worked with in the design industry, I mean, I still can call them and they'll call me. And, like it's a give and take, it's a back and forth, but they're always there for me. And actually some non-females too, or some non-women entrepreneurs. But, I would say the one person that really stands out when I thought about a mentor was you.
Aw,
I mean,
thank you.
as soon as I met you, there was just something about you. You kind of took me under your wing in a way. And it's not about design, but it was about being empowered. It was about channeling your best self for your business. So, and being the best you that you could be. And I learned that from you.
Oh, well, thank you. I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I know you weren't, but I would say out of everybody, you're the one who has stood out to me the most.
I remember very specifically, I don't remember the name of this restaurant. Maybe you do, but I remember the brunch where you were first telling me about this pillow idea of yours, and we did a little post with it because you had a pillow.
Oh, yeah. I remember the restaurant. I don't remember the name of it either, but
I think you picked it. It was beautiful. It was like outside and there were lots of flowers, and
yeah.
I was like, well, we'll just do a social post on it right now. Get it going.
And, I mean, if you hadn't pushed me, I would probably still be thinking about it, right? But sometimes it's just somebody nudging you a little bit closer to the edge.
for you to jump.
Well, I don't
And
remember what I specifically said. Do you?
I just know that you are very passionate about me and about me as a designer, and you always have been. And you've always made me feel like I can do this. I can be a business owner, right? If I can design for my clients, right? It doesn't have to be for somebody else. And so it's just been an easy one for me
And look, you are a designer, businesswoman, owner, running your own show, and I love it. And now you're on my podcast.
Yeah,
This is
sometimes I have to
amazing.
stop and think, am I really doing this? But yeah,
You're really doing it.
every day I wake up and I do it. And I mean, I'm lucky that some of my clients have actually let me also take control of the construction process. So, that's another little thing that I've added to my business.
Another
Project
notch.
management, another notch. And I never thought that would be something that I would take on. But, I'm not afraid of a challenge, and I'm not afraid to really push myself to the edge. If I can't, you never know unless you try. And my clients have been very gracious with it. And I'm lucky. I feel very blessed and lucky to have these opportunities. And who knows what's next?
Who knows what's next? Well, I really do love that about you. I love that, like you said in the beginning, you push your clients to take risk, but I love that you also push yourself to take risk. And it's a testament to where you are today. All right. So now I want to share with you some of my favorite interviews. These are always my favorite interviews. So every month, in addition to interviewing an entrepreneur or an executive, I also interview one of my former interns from Pitch Publicity that I affectionately call my Pitch Stars, you all know. So these are some clips from our Pitch Star interviews from season 2. And I specifically made it a point to talk about some of the stories I knew that I was going to be weaving into the book with some of our Pitch Stars. And in the book, when you read the book, you will see that the full story is not there. I mean, it would be impossible. The book would be too long to have everyone's full story. But there are partial stories, and the stories are really used. I call them metamorphosis moments in the book, and they're used to show the reader or the listener to our audiobook how you can put the leadership skills into action that I talk about in the book. So in the book, there are going to be 10 mentorship touch points. And these are my touch points that I have found over my career that really help develop somebody into a high-performing professional, a real leader, a real standout. And it's all using a mentorship approach versus just a management approach. And so that's what the book's all about. So in the book, I'm going to outline my 10 touch points. And in each of those touch points, you're going to find a story, a metamorphosis moment from one of my mentees. And so, as you know, I interview a lot of my mentees on the Pitch Life podcast, and they share their story in depth. And some of these stories are pretty funny. You will only get a portion of them in the book. And I've also protected identities in the book, so you won't know who the specific person is. But right now I'm going to share some clips for you from season 2 of some of my Pitch Stars and some of the stories that they shared that you're going to learn about in the book as well. I remember meeting you shortly after you graduated from the University of Florida, and you were struggling to find a job. I think that's why you came on as an intern. But can you take us back to that time and share what was going on with your life as you were preparing for your career after school?
Yes. So at that time, I remember graduating. I had my new portfolio. I had moved back to Tampa. I had my degree. I told myself no more internships. I had already did 4 unpaid internships throughout my time at UF. I was an overachiever, like a lot of UF students are. So yeah, I told myself no internships. It's time to get to work and time to, make a name for ourselves. And I could not find a job anywhere. I was applying and at agencies and in-house and marketing companies. And I even started to look outside of the field and just to get something in an office. And I wasn't getting any callbacks. So I found Pitch and I was like, okay, it's an internship. Let's just do it. You were looking for gators. And I was like, all right, I'll do one more internship and then we'll look for the job. But I remember sitting with you at that Starbucks shop and like hearing what I was going to do. And I was like, this is not an internship. This is like the real deal. I'm going to be like an actual publicist.
I kind of propelled you right into it. When I looked back, because I've kept everyone's schedule, so I know exactly what you were working on in that month.
That's amazing.
There are about 4 different campaigns you were working on. So I threw you into it. What was that experience like? Because a lot of people ask me that when they're interviewing with me now. What is it like? What did it feel like to just start pitching? Was it terrifying? Was it empowering?
Yeah, it was scary because, and when I think about it now, I was a public relations major for 4 years, studied public relations, and never once did they ask me to pitch or to call a reporter or to cold call. Like none of that was ever covered in any of my courses. It was like, here's how you do a press release. Here's, how you prepare for an interview and things like that. But the pitching was completely left off. So I was terrified. And I'll never forget those first 2 calls with reporters. I would like freeze or I would like mix up my words. I was so embarrassed. It was mortifying. But like once I actually got into it and started to get a groove and you started making me like practice the pitch and all of that, it was like I got my groove and I loved it from there. So it was a scary experience, but it was needed. It was how I kind of got a jump start to my whole career. So
do you recall what your biggest challenge was during the internship at Pitch Publicity and how did you overcome it?
I think the interesting thing about that internship, as you mentioned, is we were all remote. And that was before remote was a thing. And so for me, being young, being in college at the time, it was how do I prioritize the time? Because it wasn't like I was going into an office and you were watching over me, right? And all of that. It was really more of that, okay, I have classes and I have this internship. And at some point, I have to figure out the ways to find time to pitch and, get my hours in and get my bookings in and all of that good stuff. So I think that time management part at times, was a challenge in just learning. But, once I got through that process, it was super helpful just, again, as we moved into this remote world later on.
Yeah, we were 10 years ahead of all of that. And you were in kind of the group of interns of when I first took the company remote. So I always think it's very interesting to watch how you all have done because we kind of got a 10-year jump on everybody on just how to like manage things.
Totally agree.
You're the only one out of all the interns I've worked with that actually got to see this. So during the time that Melody was interning with us at Pitch Publicity, I took on a massive project pro bono, by the way. I was not getting paid for it. But I really did it more just because I thought it would look really good in our portfolio and it would challenge me personally to another level. So I agreed to work with Fabian Cousteau on his Mission 31. He was attempting to break his grandfather's record, Jacques Cousteau, of living under the water for 31 days. Jacques Cousteau had lived under the water for 30 days. So I literally was camped out in Isla Mirada in the Florida Keys for a few months while this international media event was going on. I remember Melody, along with a few other interns I had at that time, they were literally running pitch. Like the paying clients, they were taken care of and they were booking media. I was solely working with this non-paying client.
I'm laughing because I remember the one of the very first things is you asked me to get coffee for you and somebody else. And I get there and I get out of the car and I spill the coffee. I'm just like, oh, way to go, Melody. I felt horrible. And you didn't even like yell at me. You're just like, it's okay. Like, and the coffee was just all on your ankles. And you didn't, yeah, I was just thanking God. I'm just like, thank you that she didn't like fire me. I felt so bad.
Devil wears Prada moment on you.
Thank you so much for not doing that. That was just so awful. But we all make mistakes, and that's one thing that I know and live by every single day.
It's so funny you mentioned that because most all the interns I've ever worked for me, of course, I never asked them to go get me coffee or dry cleaning or any of those ridiculous tasks. But sometimes when I do pull you in person, it's funny because it's like, okay, we do need those things. And they're always like, I brought an intern up to New York recently and I said, okay, you have to run and go get coffee. And she's like, I don't even know how to make coffee. I'm like, you better learn because I've been nice enough not to make you learn how to do coffee yet. Your next job will probably make you do only coffee for like
Right.
a year.
Oh my God. Oh my
That's
goodness.
so funny that you had that experience. Was there anything else that stood out from that? It was such a large event.
Yeah, I really enjoyed just seeing the preparation, just the build up, because I remember we had to wait a little bit. We knew exactly when to expect Fabian Cousteau to just come up out of the water, but there was a lot of I don't know if you remember, like I don't know if this is the right term, but like decompressing or because when they come up, they had to do it slowly and had to be very careful, or else it would be really life threatening, I
It would have
believe.
been another media event.
Very
Kind you
bad.
don't want.
Yeah. So I just remember the build up and everybody was in such anticipation and just talking about it. And I had no idea about his grandfather, Jacques. So to know that some people had actually heard about that previous event from his grandfather and they also knew about this. So it was exciting. And just seeing that people could have fun. Even me, I got to have some like free time taking photos and I stayed in a wonderful hotel thanks to you. And your friends were awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was nice for you and I just to connect on a different level too that we probably didn't have as much time to do, when
Yeah.
we're just working remotely. Was there a moment during your internship with us that you thought, okay, this was the right decision for me?
Yes, I always think back to the 2 weeks that you set up at the beginning of an internship to make sure the fit is right for me and for you. And I just remember going through those 2 weeks, and at the very beginning, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, I don't know if this is for me. This is so scary to be calling people I don't know and pitching them." And I just I look back to those 2 weeks, and even in just that short amount of time, my confidence skyrocketed in terms of being able to confidently call people I didn't know, pitch them a client I had just learned about, but learned about really well through practice with you. And by the end of those 2 weeks, I was like, this is a very nerve-wracking opportunity for me. And I feel like almost that little bit of fear of what was to come was what pushed me to decide to stay if I was presented that opportunity to stay out at the end of the 2 weeks because, I mean, why not grow and take on that little bit of fear, and take a risk and grow from it, you know?
I like that.
Yeah.
Really leaning into the fear and going for it. Are there any skills that you learned at Pitch that you're still using today? I know you're in the advertising world now, but are there any things that you picked up from the internship that you're still using?
Yeah, I mean, aside from knowing how to communicate and talking to your audience and of course writing, I think that confidence was a really, really big thing that I picked up at Pitch. I mean, again, like I mentioned, you had so much confidence in us, and I think that I kind of had imposter syndrome in a way that I was like, I don't know if I'm right for this job or for this industry, but you would keep pushing us, and that really helped build up my confidence. And obviously when you're on the phone for with 80 plus people, you're able to really practice your communication skills and your confidence levels do grow. So I think that that's something that I try to exude every day at work.
I literally pushed you. I think we have a picture of me pushing you.
Yes, we do. We do. I still have it. Yes.
Pushed you into all kinds of things, into the
Yes.
water. Daniela, we didn't have much time with her, so we had to like really get
Yep.
things going. So
Yeah.
I do talk a lot about, even if you're in a remote situation, the importance of in-person experiences. During your internship with Pitch, we were not able to do that because we were restricted. We weren't allowed to do that. There were all these restrictions. But I'm just curious now, looking back on that, do you think that the lack of in-person connection affected your relationship with me during your time at Pitch? Or did you feel more connected or disconnected despite the distance and isolation? What was going on with you at that time?
I think that's a very interesting question. And I actually don't think that our connection was impacted at all because of the lack of in person contact. I think, if anything, the uncertainty that the pandemic created allowed us to become more connected because we were all going through something entirely new together. And I think that it led to more honest conversations about the state of the world and how are you feeling and how's your family and how's everyone doing, that, maybe we typically wouldn't have had because we would just be talking about the work and how was your weekend and, some of those more high level things. But I think it was really an interesting time and a time that allowed to, you know, break down the barriers. It doesn't matter if you're together, it doesn't matter where you are. You can connect with people if you care and you show that you care and that you want to connect with them.
For me, I remember I just wanted to maintain these clients because I didn't want to lose all my clients because that would have meant that I would have lost all of you at that time too. I had to let you go. And I knew that especially during this uncertain time, jobs were important. So I was really hustling to change all the angles to convince my clients, no, let's not, a lot of them wanted to wait. Let's wait it out and see what happens. And I just kind of felt like, okay, this could last a really long time and I didn't want to wait. So I was very focused on that. When I think back about my experience, I do remember connecting with you, asking about your family. I think I even shipped you some food one time. I was trying to do everything that I could, but I would really love to hear your perspective on how I did as a leader during that time. Was there anything that I could have done better in retrospect during that hectic time that you think would have made the experience better for you?
I really don't think so. I think what what's interesting that you just pointed out and something that I did not think about then was all the work that you were doing as a business owner behind the scenes to make sure that you were staying afloat.
And I do remember during that time navigating it carefully, trying to share, the importance of things with the clients without absolutely freaking everybody out because I knew there was already so much stress. But yeah, it was interesting to do that. And I also think too, it depends on where you are at your stage in your career, how you take in the information as well. But I think it's also a good thing to remember if you are just starting out your career to keep in mind, maybe, the boss or manager is acting a certain way and there's more stress that they're under that you don't realize. And sometimes they push that stress to you, when things are urgent. And it could just be a matter of saying, hey, it seems like things are really under stress. I'd like to understand your position a little bit more so that I can help you. But I think you bring up a really good point. Often we push people when we're being pushed. Some it's usually coming from somebody else.
Yes. And to that point, I think you bring a very valuable perspective as being, the owner of your business and running it completely. Um, I think that goes to show how you were able to navigate it so well because it was, all coming from you. I think that's really just really incredible.
So I also remember you really enjoyed during the internship our monthly Zoom meetings. We had one day out of the month that we had everybody on the pitch team, all the interns come on and do a presentation because I was trying to teach about presentation skills and you had to share the Zoom screen and you had to give a presentation on what you were working on. And I remember you telling me, that's my favorite part. So I want to know now that you've been in your career for a little bit, how did presenting each month help you in your current role? Did that give you a head start on anything, having that practice?
Yeah, I think one, having prepared slides and prepared information ready. We did a lot of that in school, so I was a little used to it in that way. But in the setting of having to give a presentation online is something I was not used to, and I think that's something we still do. We have Zoom meetings, we have team meetings, we have phone calls with our donors and priests. So learning to present in a digital space, I think, was helpful for me, um, especially looking back on it, because there are a lot of things seems simple, but it would have taken me longer to figure out in my current role. So I think that was probably the most helpful thing. And I just loved being in a team setting and hearing from other people and like what they were doing. And like I just really enjoy working with people. I don't like working in isolation. So it's it was really though that getting like experience in the digital space there.
Did you learn anything from any of their team members? Do you remember or recall anything that you're like, oh, I'm gonna do that next time? Did you pick up
I
anything?
I remember Mo doing something, Maureen, doing some things like where her in her presentations of just like visuals and like the way she was organized. I was like, oh, I could probably be a little more organized, add some like better visuals, graphics, um, just be a little more creative. I think also learning to be because I'm a creative person, but I can also be type A when it comes to like trying to be efficient. So I think one like really good thing about pitch publicity was learning to be more creative in what could be a type A environment, with like the phone calls and like keeping everything like this. Because I can tend to compartmentalize like my creativeness, like songwriting and singing and stuff is like over here, and then like all the work stuff's over here. But when I learned to combine the two, I actually am able to enjoy it a lot more and uh, be a lot more effective. So that was one thing I remember you and I talked about in mentorship was was like learning to be creative there. So I'm still working on it, but I
Well, I
remember
think
that.
you're very creative. Is there any a specific publicity win that you got that, you talk about the dopamine rush. Was there one that you still remember that you were just so proud of when you were at Pitch?
There is one that I still actually brag about today. And it does have to also do with the Hoodia and Dexy 20. It's when, and I just so vividly remember workshopping this in your office, Amy. But it's when we put together the pitch for Fleet Week and ended up getting it on the Today Show. We had a whole tie-in with, I think it was, I wish I could see the clip, to be honest. Like, if you still have that, please send it to me because I would love to just go back in time and watch that. But basically, we hired, I believe they were like personal trainers and put them in like little Navy outfits. And we did a whole segment on like, what are the top 3 things that you can do to lose weight? And one was obviously the client placement that was able to get on the Today Show. But the fact that we had to be so creative and think outside the box, like how are we going to get, a supplement on the Today Show? And it was featured on the Today Show, in its little box right up there. But that is something that I still remember every stage of it, from workshopping the pitch to I remember exactly where I was sitting when I received the confirmation email from the booking producer. And then you flew me up to New York City. I was 23 at the time. So you
By
must have had some
yourself.
trust.
I let you go by yourself without any supervision.
Without any supervision. No, I was so excited and nervous at the same time. But, in the end, the results that we got for the client, and then they were able to say that this product has been featured on the Today Show, I know went a really long way with them. So, and then we celebrated after, which was fantastic too.
Do you remember? I do remember like being on call for you, and I feel like I can't remember exactly, but didn't something almost go wrong and you had to fix it?
Something almost went wrong, and they actually almost cut the segment. And I remember taking that call and then calling you. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Like, they're saying they might not have enough airtime. They like had re-looked at the segment and were like not sure it's quite a fit. And I'm like, no, like I'm here, like we're doing this. And it ended up like working itself out, and they kept the segment and everything was fine. We just had to almost like kind of like re-pitch it in real time the day before the segment. And I had completely forgotten about that. So thank you I think I blocked that out.
Yeah, I think, yeah, but I remember that because it's that it says, oh my gosh moments,
Yeah.
my boss has flown me up to here to New York. We've already expensed all this stuff. The client has sent their spokesperson up here, and it's like the day before they have a change of heart. And Lauren really had to go in there and save it. And you did save it, and it was great. So good job.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Well, thanks for having faith in me.
Do you remember when we went in studio to TV20 in Gainesville, which is a very small studio, small market, but we were working with James DiVirgilio on a financial topic. And I drug you along. I feel like it was like 5 o'clock in the morning or something really early. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. And I think that was another okay, this is real moment for me, because up until then, the only newsroom I had seen was the Gainesville, University of Florida journalism program room. And that's obviously very real and legit, but it is just students. So going to the real Gainesville news station newsroom and seeing people actually in action again was just another moment that I was like, okay, wow, real career path. Here's how it is. And I think for me, it was at 5 a.m. bright and early. So I think it was just a great example of okay, this is what a journalist life can be like. They have really early hours. We got there at 5. I think the people who were working had been there since 3. So I think it's a good reminder to be friendly to journalists. They have long hours. They're working with their clients and subject matters bright and early in the morning to really make the show happen. So I think that was a really cool experience to see.
I do remember when you were interning with us, we were working on, we were producing actually, a seminar series for a UC Vox called Elephant in the Room. And it was really focused on addressing workplace racism. I remember Ladora was working with me on that, and I was having you participate. But how did that experience impact you as a student? And I'm just curious, because since you participated, we had just for everyone that doesn't know, we had many professionals participate in this panel, and they were from different fields within the communications. So we had advertising, PR, news media, but all different industries like sports and fashion and entertainment speak. And they were giving the students advice about just how they communicate and handle things as it relates to the topic of racism within the workplace. Now that you've been out for a while, did any of that stick with you? Any of their advice? Any of that mentorship from just attending that series? Did any of it stick with you? Do you use any of it?
Absolutely. Obviously being a Black woman in any white collar profession, I feel like at this point, you're going to stand out a little bit. I'm very lucky that I work in PR, that there are a lot of women working in the field, but still as a person of color, you stand out for better or for worse. So I really appreciated being able to sit in on a conversation like that while I was so young, because those are conversations that we need to have more, that I feel like the younger generations might be a little bit more aware of it. But especially speaking to people that are older than me, it's kind of not even realized that these are things that we need to bring up at all. And that's a little bit shocking to me, because for me, obviously race is always at the foreground or the forefront of my life. But when I guess you aren't as affected by those things, you don't really think about it. You don't really think about communication styles or, maybe business practices and how that affects your own employees. And it's not malicious. You just don't realize because you don't think about it. So I think just starting having those conversations is super helpful to someone like me.
How do you know when a company, and I'm just talking, we're not talking about any of your companies, but how would you advise somebody to know if a company is a right fit for them? Maybe they go to an interview and they're not really feeling seen, but gosh, they really need to get a job. Do you just push through and get that job anyway? Or how do you know if it's right for you? And what should somebody look for when they're interviewing with companies as far as making sure that they land somewhere where they're going to be in a supportive environment?
Honestly, trusting your gut is the biggest thing. There's been so many times in my life where my gut is telling me I don't like this, but I'm I can't find a tangible reason why I shouldn't do this. And I end up doing it. And then I find the reason. So honestly, trusting your gut, you can reach out and talk to other people that might work there and get their perspective, because a firsthand experience is invaluable. But honestly, and not speaking from personal experience, because I
wouldn't want to put myself in that position. But I know of a lot of people who thought that they were joining a company for XYZ reasons, and it turned out that it was like a bit of a facade. It wasn't really that way. They felt really uncomfortable there. And my advice, if you end up in that situation, is you're not married to this job. Like, you applied and got this job. You interviewed for it. You can do the same thing again and apply and get a different job. Don't stay in a toxic situation.
Are there certain management styles that you're noticing that motivate you more versus ones that maybe make you feel like, I don't really want to be here and I don't want to be a manager? Can you tell me a little bit about your experience so far?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I work well with kind of collaborative managers who give me a little bit of autonomy. So kind of the aspect of understanding that, yes, I'm an intern, I'm entry level, but I really am here to learn and grow. And so kind of having a manager that's, approachable and kind of fostering that growth. That's a question that I would always ask in interviews. It's like, oh, like, what are the opportunities to grow, even if I'm just here for a short time? So a manager who really invests in my growth. So I had one manager who was so great. She would ask me, we'd run into people in the office. She'd introduce me to them and she'd be like, oh my God, do you want to meet this person? They are in X division, would love for you to learn about this aspect. So I think it's great to kind of have a manager that really is not only just supporting you in saying that they want you to grow, but like is actively making those connections for you and encouraging you to grow. I think maybe what doesn't work as well for me is maybe the aspect of, I've had a manager that kind of is a little bit more almost where I'm not given as much autonomy to do things. So I feel like I kind of had to run everything through my manager before I could send it out. And I think that aspect just kind of made me feel like I wasn't as trusted in the things that I was doing. And I felt like I never was like given the autonomy to really do my own thing and send things out. It always had to kind of be double checked. So I don't know. I kind of like the freedom and of course being like guided at first, but eventually letting me have the wings. And that's definitely what I think makes a great manager, is someone who encourages and, guides, but then kind of lets you go and, lets you, if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. It's not the end of the world. So yeah.
Now, you mentioned the kind of relationship of that one manager opening doors or making the connections, which is sounding a lot to me like more of a mentorship style,
Yes.
management style. And I know that your first internship was with me, and I've always tried to have that mentorship style. How have you been able to identify when somebody's really mentoring you? Have you been able to identify that? And when someone's not?
Yes. I think the key difference, and like just thinking back to like past internship managers, starting with you, Amy, and you giving me my first opportunity, I think it's the aspect of, having empathy and connecting beyond the work. So, like I remember when you came to Gainesville, even though we had a remote internship, and I think we were nearing the end of our internship, you got us all together, you took us all to dinner, you had us chat about ourselves, like just outside of the work, you kind of fostered an environment for us to not only get to know you one-on-one, but also get to know each other, us other interns. And, that goes same for the workplace in terms of getting to know your colleagues. So I think a great mentor is someone that fosters positive environments and encourage is people to connect beyond the work, because at the end of the day, we're all people. And I think having good connections with your colleagues is really what keeps you going.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed this preview of my book coming out, Lift 10 Mentorship Touchpoints to Empower Your Team and Accelerate Your Career. And also just a recap of season 2, so you can see how I've intertwined this podcast with my book. Again, I started this podcast really as research on the book because I wanted to get the stories right. I also wanted to hear from other entrepreneurs and business people who their mentors were and how that has affected their careers. And we learned a lot this year. I'm really excited to go into season 3. We have a great lineup in store for you. Even more metamorphosis moments, more stories of my mentees, but also some great entrepreneurs who are joining us starting in January in season 3. And then please Make sure you circle February 25th on your calendars. That is the day that Lyft releases. My book will be out and available. You'll be able to purchase it on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, or wherever you purchase books online. And we also have an Audible version. So I will read the book to you if you don't have time to read, if that's your favorite way to consume. And there's some other surprises in the book as well. So if you want an advanced sneak peek, make sure to check out my author speaker website, lifttolead.com, where you will find a tab that says book, and you will learn all about Lift Book coming out, as well as learn about Stephen Palladino, the artist that I partnered with on the book to really bring the stories to life. And I cannot wait for you to see the characters that Stephen has brought to life in my book. I'm so excited for you to meet the Evolution Squad and to learn more about how to lead with a mentorship approach, which is what my book is all about. And I will see you in 2026. It's going to be a great year. Until then, MSH.